Okay, hello everyone. I guess we'll get started. Welcome to the conference. This is the session AI in Praxis, integrating AI literacy into a modern information literacy course. My name is Susan Slaga Mativier, and I'm one of the members of the planning committee. Just wanted to let you know, obviously, this session is being recorded. Please make sure you stay muted throughout the presentation, and you can share your questions at the end uh, in the chat, or I don't know if they can raise their hand. All right. For the introduction here, Stephanie, Jenny, and Scott have been researching and presenting on the creation of an AI ethical use framework for the past 6 months. Today, they are discussing this research coupled with the development of a library-led AI and information literacy credit-bearing course, which was developed by Jenny and Scott. Rihanna is a student who attended their course and will be presenting on her real-world experiences taking the course and developing the framework. The goal of their presentation is to explore strategies for integrating AI literacy into information literacy instruction and teach attendees how to develop personal information literacy frameworks that encourage critical thinking, ethical decision making, and reflection. Okay, take it away.
All right, well, thank you so much. So I was going to do the intro, but I won't reread the AI in Praxis. And thank you, Susan, for a lovely introduction of each of us. So Scott, you can go ahead and advance the slide, please. So just to kind of build upon what Susan has already said, we've already introduced ourselves. We are going to also talk within this presentation a little bit about the evolving nature of artificial intelligence and specifically how it relates to libraries. And then go into our role as educators, librarians' role as educators. Then we'll move into the course that was mentioned, our credit-bearing course, LIBR 2001, and the framework, which is the final assignment of that course. And then we'll lead into the most important element, I think, Rihanna's experience as a student in that course. And finally, have time for you all to ask questions and provide comments to us. And again, I won't belabor who we are, but here's our contact info so that you'll have that after the presentation as well. And I will go ahead and turn it over to Scott.
All right. So I don't need to sit here and enumerate the probably half dozen places that you've been today on your phone or on the internet that have had AI inserted into them willingly or not over the last couple of years for all kinds of different purposes. From, Grammarly has an AI component, whether it's writing, coding, summarization, even things, like illicit for some people are using them for research. Unlike other technology implementations, we have been coming at this from an understanding that there is nuance to it. It takes more than just this is the thing you need to type or the set of instructions you need to follow in order to use the tool, because these tools have such a broad set of uses that nuance is not just something that we can gloss over, it's a requirement. And the more we worked through this process, the more we realized that information literacy and AI literacy were very closely intertwined. We kind of discovered it, and it seems like that's kind of the profession found the same thing as they moved through. So it basically is something that we had to acknowledge goes beyond memorizing and a skill training that you would normally get from those traditional training methods. So, slide works when I do. There we go. So part of that, if any of you are familiar with the data, information, knowledge, wisdom triangle, is that we had to acknowledge that what we were trying to convey to students with regards to information and AI literacy was more than just information conveyed to them to memorize. We were trying to get them to understanding, which is really up at that like wisdom level, at the very least knowledge. It's very easy to take action that can be harmful in all sorts of different ways with AI, whether it be to your learning process, to the environment, to other people, to, inherent bias or hallucination or confabulation, like all of these things that can happen when using AI. Because it has so many uses, there are also that many things that can go wrong. So teaching specific tasks that you can do with the tool matters way less than building the judgment to decide what to do with it. So one thing that we keep coming back to, and you hear all throughout the narrative, the research, is that there's a huge focus right now on critical thinking. And basically, our argument is that one of the major cores of AI literacy is critical thinking. So when you take those actions and the critical thinking together, and then you get this kind of like, thoughtful engagement with the tool and then the meaningful action related to it, and we'll get more on that soon. So passing off to Stephanie.
So in that vein of artificial intelligence being in everything, I don't know about you guys. I hate that when I go to search for an article on databases now, it automatically creates an AI summary that frequently doesn't even accurately summarize the article. So these are things that students are getting first touch on rather than interacting with librarians. They sometimes use our catalog before they even meet us. They're going to have to use it in their professional lives and likely in their personal lives as well, just because it's in and around everywhere. So instead of just saying AI, no bad, we are taking a perspective that librarians are educators, and as such, we need to educate others. In that framework, we are saying that librarians already have critical evaluation tools that we teach to others. We can apply that to AI, and we should also talk about the ethical use of AI. We will delve deeply into on LIBR 2001, but not just, hey, use this for outlines, but what are the pitfalls of use? Who is benefiting from this? Those are things librarians have spoken on and can continue to speak on. Librarians are familiar with information literacy, which can be applied to digital literacy and digital fluency, and it's a good faculty development. The nice thing about being a faculty librarian here on our campus is that we go into other departments and we work with other departments, so we can kind of go across campus lines. We don't really have a dog in the campus fight as far as this is our territory. We're really neutral, so we could just be like Sweden and go around and teach everybody these frameworks. So that's really nice, and that positions us in a really great place. And we're doing a lot of talking in our circles about moving beyond the traditional one shot, just teaching students search strategies, but going in depth about what libraries are, how they can be used, and what we can educate them on. And so Jenny and Scott came up with LIBR 2001, and I think it's a great model for teaching ethical use of AI and informed use of AI. And it allows for a deeper exploration of information literacy concepts. And we can go to the next slide, and I'll hand it off.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so to talk a little further about the course development. So at Austin Peay State University, which is located in Clarksville, Tennessee, about 45 miles northwest of Nashville, we have a pretty good mix of students in terms of demographics. So we have about 25% of adult non-traditional learners. We have military affiliated students, as we are located very closely to Fort Campbell Army Base. And we have a large percentage of first generation students. So I say all that to say we are touching a lot of different folks who are coming to the library with varying skill sets and previous knowledge that they bring to their ability to learn information literacy concepts. So obviously we do a lot of traditional one-shot library sessions, and that has for many, many, many years been the focus of how we have reached our student population. So after, especially with the growth and popularity of AI and large language models, and us trying to address AI literacy in those one-shots, we had conversations within the library among our faculty about the challenges around that. And what we realized is that a one-shot session is just not super conducive to that. So Scott and I talked, and we thought it was a good time to see if we could get a credit-bearing course, because prior to the development of LIBR 2001, we have not offered a library credit-bearing course at Austin Peay. So as I mentioned, we realized that there is a large gap in knowledge, skills, and abilities surrounding the use and understanding of large language models. But we also see those same gaps, as I mentioned, in just information literacy concepts across the board. So based on our previous instruction data of those one-shot sessions, and looking at the higher education landscape surrounding the creation of credit-bearing library courses, we came up with a proposal. We developed our student learning outcomes, and we pitched a course proposal to the University Curriculum Committee, because that's the steps it had to go through. It was overwhelmingly approved, which was wonderful. The negative part of that approval is that it is a general elective, which means there are some challenges with our enrollment. Our numbers have steadily grown, but it's not quite, as robust as we would like it to be, but we are optimistic, and we are continuing to work on strategies to make that happen. So the course was first taught in fall 2024, and as you can see on the slides, the title of our course is Modern Information Literacy and AI Skills. Next slide, please. So that's a little bit about how the course came to be. So to give you a little more understanding of the content, I'm going to go into it. So as I mentioned, it's not focused solely just on AI literacy. And as Scott talked about, AI literacy is really a part of the larger umbrella of information literacy. So in designing this course, and it is taught currently by Scott and myself, and hopefully as the enrollment grows, other librarians will also teach this course as well. So the way we have it divided is I focus on the first half of the course, or I lead the first half of the course, which focuses on those core information literacy concepts. And we follow the Society of College, National, and University Libraries, better known as SCONAL. There's 7 pillars of information literacy model for that first half of the course. So that's where students look at identifying information needs, gathering resources, organizing those resources, and then ultimately presenting the information. So it goes through those 7 pillars in a way that is intentionally scaffolded to build upon that prior knowledge as the course progresses. So one of the first things we do in the course in the very first week is we discuss, we have students identify a time when they were overwhelmed by information. And so this kind of really sets the stage for everything that I just mentioned that we talk about. So when you're overwhelmed, what do you do? How do you approach all of the noise and information overload that's coming at you? And that's where we can start to break down those information literacy concepts to address them more specifically. So then from there, in the second half of the course, Scott takes over as the primary instructor, and those same concepts are applied to AI literacy. So you're still identifying information, you're thinking of the outputs of AI, and then we add in additional conversations surrounding things like data privacy, algorithmic bias, and the ethical and environmental implications of AI. Next slide, please. So with all of that said, we really wanted our final assignment for the course to tie everything together. And when we designed this course, we were designing it with a constructivist approach where students are asked to draw upon their prior knowledge and experiences to connect new information to their own understanding of a given topic. And so we wanted that to come through this final assignment. So this model that you see on the screen, the AI literacy framework, is from Digital Promise, and it's really grounded in the ability to use, understand, and evaluate AI tools. So we took this to think about and design our framework assignment that Scott will elaborate on in just a moment. And our framework assignment extends beyond just the AI component and also includes those information literacy concepts. So it asks students to consider the many ways people interact with information beyond just AI, and to think about the ways that they find, interpret, judge, and apply information in ethical and responsible ways. And so I'll turn it over to Scott to talk more about the framework assignment.
So the framework assignment came to be as instead of a way to, just asking students to write a paper and asking them to employ these skills, which we had actually already been doing with the other assignments in the course. We really wanted to provide them an opportunity to reflect on their experience and create something that they can take out of the classroom with them and hopefully update. And even if they don't, they will have put the reflection and time and effort into constructing it in such a way that it will inform them going forward. So we really tried to take this and turn it into an experience where we ask them to take everything they learned about information literacy and reflect on it, enumerate it. Same thing with AI literacy, apply those information literacy skills to them. And then have a reflection piece. Those are the major parts of it. So for the information literacy section, we asked them to explain like how will you go about evaluating your sources? We teach them methods that they can use, but whether that's what they use or not, at least they have thought about and somehow processed through that information such that it will not just be something, again, that they have memorized. Hopefully they're reaching this level of understanding. How are they going to handle information organization and citation? We talk about not only citation of like traditional information literacy citation, but AI acknowledgement and saying that you don't really want to cite AI as the source of information because it's not. It came from somewhere else. Just generally, those tools are incapable of telling you that original source. And then, of course, media and visual literacy as well. With the AI literacy piece, one of the very durable and like dynamic parts of this framework, uh, as I'm sure you've observed, this AI technology and the evolution thereof moves very quickly. We still do evaluate this course basically every semester that we teach it to make sure that it's up to date and current. But the way we've built this framework means that it requires less work than it otherwise would have if we were being very specific. By saying, what are the capabilities of the current tools? How will you go about evaluating them? What are the concerns with critically evaluating AI generated content? How do you handle academic integrity? They're answering all of those questions in the moment of the course that they're taking. So it's not something where we have to go in and update every time. It's saying to them, go out, find the answer to this question, whether it's something that we gave you earlier in this course, or the university has released a new policy, which I think the first semester we taught this, actually our university came out with their AI policy. So it's basically, it asks for an ongoing process of reflecting on it and then taking action. And then the entire third portion is purely a reflection and growth plan. It asks them to acknowledge not only how, like, where they started and where they've come to, but what was that process like? And like, what biases did they have? Did they come in thinking that AI was terrible and now they think it's useful? Did they come in thinking it was useful and now think it's terrible? We've had both. I think we had one class where we had that, like a student from each camp in the same very course. It can vary wildly. And I think there's value in addressing those things, especially with regards to like environmental impact. A lot of, I mean, it's when we started teaching this, it was less well known. Like there's a big anti-data center sentiment right now. So it's becoming more in the public consciousness, but more about that in a moment. And then the last piece, the very last piece, is we ask them to plan how are they going to stay current with the technology, with changes in the information landscape, with changes in AI, and then are they going to like adapt their framework? We ask them to set a schedule of, quarterly or 6 months or once a year, whatever it is, set a time to just be very intentional about how they go back and look at this framework and consider how it might have changed and how things might be different. because the world changes around us, and that constant cycle of reflection and action is what we're setting them up for, which leads us into Stephanie.
Thank you, Scott. And by this point, you might be wondering or thinking that Scott and Jenny are geniuses, which is what I think. I'm very lucky to work with them. And how did they build out this framework? How did they set up sort of the ethical components of their framework? Where that is where Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed comes into play. It is a I would say, pretty famous work. Scott has it. That's the newer edition. I unfortunately read the 1972 edition, but it's an excellent work about coming to critical reflection and combining that with purposeful action. And that's a big question surrounding what's happening in the AI space. Should I just use it for everything? If I'm going to buy a car, should I tell it what car I'm going to buy, give it my credit score, and have it make a strategy for me? I would personally not do that, but there are situations in which it can be used in an ethical way. I'm a dyslexic. For me, sometimes it is really nice to put instructions in and say, I'm a dyslexic. Could you please break this down in a way a dyslexic would understand? And it's really good at that. I have a sister that has Asperger's, and she uses it to break down interactions with people to see and judge her interactions. And she really likes that because it takes the emotion out of it for her. So there are ways to really use this, and that's what we're asking students to do. Please, don't use it to write all your text messages, but come to that critical reflection and purposeful action. So in the course, students are asked to consider the real-world implications of their actions. I know we've all heard that the typical AI conversation uses a lot of water. They are kept in submerged water pools, and there's a lot of evaporation. It also causes a lot of pollution to communities. Going back to Scott talking about the anti-AI data centers, that's because of all this pollution and, of course, electricity bills going up. So bringing that part of it to students' awareness, because sometimes I know when I was a student, I was just like, this is the greatest thing ever. And back then it was Wikipedia. So we've come a long way from those days. And then they contemplate more than just the source information. They think about the impact these tools have on individuals and have on them as well. Because they're going to have to use these in their professional lives, this isn't something that we can just say, we're not going to teach this to you. That would be a disservice. But we do want to teach that ethical use. And then the framework is usable in all areas of life, not just academia. So this is a good thing to teach here in academia, but if you're a public librarian, it's also a good thing to teach to community members, because a lot of times the advertising around AI is that there are no ethical implications or moral implications. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And we know as librarians that a lot of time advertising is certainly weighted towards certain individuals and not the good of the people. So the framework in Freire's, his main praxis, talks about people not knowing they are oppressed and the systems that oppress them. And so definitely looking at these AI juggernauts. Who are they oppressing? What are they doing? I don't know if everyone has seen the massive layoffs that have been happening and how this is replacing entry-level jobs. And the data shows that actually the AI doesn't perform well in these functions. There's a lot of research to show that these are mistakes being made to fire these people in favor of AI because it's not sentient. It's not there yet. Scott always tells me it's a statistical operator that makes the best statistical guess. And so he always has a great analogy that if I put Scott in a closet and shut the door, he's going to think Stephanie's a little mad at me, or we're playing hide and go seek, or I don't know what she wants. But if I put AI in a closet and shut the door, it has no thoughts because it doesn't think. And I think that's something that when I talk to people, they don't really understand about AI because the way that it's being sold to us is that it does think. So looking at the people who are selling this, are these systems bigoted? Are they sexist? Who are they exploiting? They're definitely exploiting artists. They're definitely violating copyright. So bringing all that to the forefront to show that this thing that's being sold to us as this miracle cure might actually be an oppressive system. And so I really recommend Freire's work. It'll take you down the rabbit hole, that's for sure. I read it for a lot of our presentations. I was like, well, now I just feel like I'm in the Matrix. And so The biggest thing is understanding those moral, ethical, and environmental implications of AI and requiring individuals to engage in that ongoing reflection, which is what Jenny and Scott really teach in their class. This is evolving. This isn't a one and done. This is going to go throughout your career and throughout their lifetimes. So trying to understand how it is evolving, it changes every day. I think when we first started presenting on this, we couldn't even have said that there would be these mass layoffs in these AI data centers because that was like, what, 2 years ago, I do believe. And so now it has changed substantially from 2 years ago. Our presentations are so different from what we used to do then. So I really recommend Freire. It's an excellent framework, and it is sort of the underpinning ethical framework to what they're doing here in the class. And then I will pass it on here to Rihanna, who is going to talk about the student experience.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to sort of give you my experience creating the framework and give you that other point of view because I know student voices can sometimes be not as represented in situations like this. So I wanted to talk a little bit about challenges I had when creating my framework, some helpful aspects, and then the impact that my framework has had on me. When I was creating my framework, I found it a bit difficult to draw on all the knowledge I gained throughout the semester. I found it akin to studying for a cumulative exam, and incorporate all that information into my framework. However, I did find that having to review that information helped me retain those concepts. Uh, it was a bit of a challenge to articulate my understanding of information and AI literacy concepts, especially because some were very new to me. But in the end, I found that I better understood them when I wrote them down in my own words. The most time-consuming aspect of creating my framework was stating my personal approach to information and AI literacy. I had to use the methods I had learned and expand on them to fit both the methods criteria and what would work for me and my own way of thinking. Uh, I found it intimidating to write down and solidify my framework because there was a plethora of new information and techniques that I wanted to remember. Um, After learning about information and AI literacy for an entire semester, it felt critical that I be very deliberate with my wording and clearly express the evolution of my understanding. I wanted to demonstrate how much I had learned about the concepts I had never heard before, like algorithmic bias, visual literacy, data privacy. But I was worried that I would instead show that I had misunderstood them. But fortunately, because I had been exposed to the concepts over an entire semester, I was able to review my notes and use my improved research skills to refresh my understanding. Uh, I was also a bit nervous because after learning all these new concepts, I was now being confronted with this final assignment with the tough question of what is your growth plan? What are you going to do? And so I panicked a little bit at the beginning, trying to decide on a plan to stay current with technology that fit both my habits and was adaptable to changes. But I was able to find my footing because I had reviewed all the information in the course to write the beginning parts of my framework. I knew everything I needed to know to make my plan, and my anxieties were eased by the knowledge that I could always build upon and improve my framework. This wasn't a one and done thing. I could go back. It's okay. Once I wrote everything down, both my understanding and my plan, I was less intimidated and felt better prepared as a student to continue interacting with materials that require information and AI literacy skills. Uh, Onto a few helpful aspects. The rubric that was provided alongside the framework instructions helped ensure that I included all the information presented throughout the semester and allowed me to create a cohesive and concise framework. As a student who is a bit of a perfectionist, having like a clear list of expectations helped me organize my thoughts and gave me the peace of mind that I was meeting my professor's standards. Uh, I appreciated the rubric, especially as a tool to remind myself of what I needed to focus on. Sometimes, like Stephanie was saying, it's very easy to get overwhelmed with information, and I felt these clear goals helped me stay on task. Another helpful aspect was the way the course was structured, beginning with information literacy and then proceeding to AI literacy. That helped me quickly understand how to evaluate AI generated content. At the beginning of the course, I felt very unprepared to talk about AI with my peers and professors because I did not understand how it generates responses to prompts. I felt scared that I would not be able to understand how to evaluate information presented by AI. However, once I realized that I could take the concepts that I had learned about information literacy and apply that to what I did not know, I felt more prepared to engage in conversations and start to evaluate the AI information I was coming into contact with. And that new understanding gave me the confidence I needed to create my framework. Um, a big helpful aspect was the discussion assignments. My classmates and I would respond to questions, often after reading articles or conducting our own research on the current topic, and we would have informed conversations about information literacy and AI. At the beginning of the semester, many of my peers and I expressed hesitancy towards AI, especially in academic settings, and felt unprepared to use it as a tool. Uh, but however, by the end of the semester, we had developed confidence in using AI ethically and in accordance with our own developed morals, and in evaluating the information it presented. I feel like these conversations helped me create my framework by giving me practice expressing my own opinions and helping me think critically about how AI works, how I use it, and how to evaluate information presented by it. As someone who felt underprepared to talk about AI, I think conversations like the ones I had in my discussion posts are vital for helping people to start critically thinking about AI and their habits with it. And if we could go to the next slide, please. My framework's impact after finishing LIBR 2001. I've used my framework in all of my courses after finishing LIBR 2001, uh, evaluating the credibility of sources for essays and identifying weaknesses in the information provided by AI during my research endeavors. Um, as a student, I know that many of my peers sometimes struggle with finding credible sources and do not understand sometimes what makes information strong or accurate. Um, I love the phrase, you don't know what you don't know, because how are people supposed to know how to find credible information or how to evaluate information when they haven't been taught to? Uh, this is mainly where I see my framework coming into work beyond the course. I'm able to more easily evaluate information and in turn write strong supported essays. Uh, and of course, I keep the information that was presented to me in LIBR 2001 in mind, but having my framework makes it easy to review and refresh myself on information evaluation methods and eases my worries about AI evaluation. I can easily review my plan, which is designed to resist fast technological changes, and know where to go from there. Uh, to me, the most beneficial aspect of my framework is how it has helped me feel more prepared as a student to stay informed on the ethical and moral use of information in AI. With fast-paced technological shifts and advancements, it can be really easy to feel overwhelmed and lost, especially as a student. However, having a plan that embraces continuous learning helped me become the confident information seeker I want to be. Thank you.
Okay, it's back to me again. I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about adapting the program. If you're not just an academic librarian or you're doing different things, maybe not faculty or teaching, there's an excellent article by Ward and Jameson called Pedagogical Partners, How Academic Librarians Enhance Faculty Development Initiatives Around AI Literacy. And they did a wonderful study about programs that they launched on their campus. And they also talked about ways to adapt that out and other modalities. So this is just taking basically LIBR 2001 and adapting it in other environments. Some of the things that were suggested and that were found to be successful were team-based AI programming, which can include building on programming where you're already working on coding, or you have different robotics clubs or maker spaces. It's really good to have that. Building a teen advisory board around the ethical use of AI, which educates other individuals or even adults or elder adults on ethical AI use. So then you're cross-programming between different age groups. Of course, adult AI programming, same thing as providing any ethical stances. It's always good for the library to also have a stance on AI just in case it is used and abused on those public computers. Partnering with local universities or community colleges for help. Scott, Jenny, and I went out to a regional library system. I believe maybe it was a year ago, maybe it was 2 years ago now. Time. And we went out and we gave a workshop at the very beginning of our research. So the workshop now would be very different from what we did then about how to ethically use AI, because we went to our state library conference and talking to other people, and Scott and I gave a presentation and we served on panels, and we heard people saying things like, I'm putting my whole library budget into ChatGPT and telling it to create my annual report so I can give that to my board. And Scott was just like, I need to leave because the anger. And so that was what originally started us thinking about how we can educate others. Through that presentation, our regional library reached out to us to see if we could come and give a workshop about ethical use of AI and privacy. Particularly, we talked a lot about if it's free, then you are the product they are searching for and they're selling your data. So we went there and we gave a comprehensive full-day workshop about AI use. We also went to the Tennessee Board of Regents for higher education and gave a presentation to library deans as well to talk about AI and AI implementation in libraries. So you can always reach out to somebody else and invite them over to have a talk, to come in and share their expertise. Scott has a computer science background, so he's our expertise guy, and he helps us learn a lot about this field, and that's how we're able to integrate the two sides of computer science and information literacy. A library committee focused on AI use and instruction is really important. That'll probably become part of our research and instruction unit here, something we'll have to talk about as our instruction continues to evolve and our campus policy continues to evolve. Right now, we don't touch it in our University 1000 classes. That's our just like general scope of the university class. It's too early for us to introduce AI, and we feel like it would be a place where we're saying, just go for it. We primarily scaffolded into later courses where they've had that original information literacy instruction. Now they can build on it. So that's something we're continuing to adapt and develop. Always, there are workshops for patrons to come that libraries can have. Group programming where you're combining information and AI literacy skills. It could be something you do over the summer. There are things that people are doing that they're doing part of their summer reading programs and adapting for children, because AI is going to proliferate even their devices. Their little leapfrog learning tablets are going to be AI enabled soon. So those are a lot of things that we need to address at those younger ages. Showing individuals how to make a framework, sharing your framework so that individuals know. The biggest thing we're always saying on our campus is any sort of AI detection software is a lie. Scott wrote his entire AI framework of ethical use. He put it into ChatGPT 0, and it said that he wrote it with AI. And he sat there and wrote it about not using AI. So any of those tools are not accurate and shouldn't be used to accuse students of using AI. That's something that certainly Scott can touch on more after we're finished with these slides here. And then creating a guide, a LibGuide or something that's publicly accessible that guides towards AI. And if you'll next slide me, Scott. The biggest thing that Ward and Jameson found was don't forget to follow up. A lot of times patrons felt like they got initial education, but then they had no supportive measures. So they noted that creating a page on a library website, guides, toolkits, and example frameworks were profoundly helpful in people going forward with their AI literacy. updating resource information, and I said this to everybody yesterday when we practiced. I'm the worst about this. I need to update my LibGuide right now. It will get done. But making sure that links are active. The AI landscape is changing so quickly, and the information surrounding AI, it's almost impossible to put static links to resources. So I believe it's Scott, you have an RSS feed that you subscribe to for up-to-date information. I'll be quiet so you can share.
That I was talking about this in a presentation recently. That's not kept up with anymore. It became too much of a burden because there were too many tools. Yeah.
Okay, yep. So that's the big thing with the AI lift is you got to constantly check these resources because they outdate so quickly. So updating guides regularly, providing just sort of like generalized information is best. Those ethical perspectives and frameworks for use. I really like the LaFemme framework for use, which is based off of the information literacy framework from ALA. That's a really good one. And then layering access, providing in-person meetings, recorded videos. Here in our university, we use Articulate Access 360. And so we can put those into our learning management systems. So those are great guides we can easily update and integrate into, we use D2L, but Canvas, anything like that. It's okay to be apprehensive. You don't have to know everything, but as long as you're informed and you're using those information literacy standards to apply towards artificial intelligence literacy, digital fluency, digital literacy, you're doing a good job. And it's just about spreading the message of informed consent of use of AI and not just uninformed uptake of something that we don't all understand. And then we're here to help others. We've done it before. We did it with the internet. We did it with ebooks. They said Wikipedia would kill us. We're still here. And so we'll continue to do it with AI. We got this. Thank you.
All right. So I will actually put a link in the chat for everyone of the personal information literacy framework assignment. So if you would like to see what that looks like, that is the example of the most recent version, not the one we'll be revising